welcome to the Marley Bird YouTube channel. Today's video is sponsored by Red Heart. We're going to learn how to make the Catskills cape today, which is a free pattern available over at redheart.com. It is designed by yours truly, Marley Bird. The Catskills cape uses a lot of different techniques to combine together to make a very cute and trendy cape, which is good for teens and adults. It uses a lovely color-changing yarn called Boutique Unforgettable by Red Heart. There's many different colors that you can choose from, so you can make the cape suitable for whatever your needs are. It uses a very cute stitch pattern for the body of the cape, and then we're going to pick up stitches and work a simple border combined with a very easy button edge. Sew on some buttons, add some fringe, and you've got some fun adventures ahead with this wonderful accessory. Join me over here. I'm going to show you what you need to get started. Over at redheart.com, not only will you find the pattern, but you will find a link for all the materials you need for today's project. Boutique Redheart's Boutique Unforgettable yarn, a size J, which is also a 6mm crochet hook, a tapestry needle, 3, maybe even more stitch markers depending on how many you choose to use, good pair of scissors, and then you're going to want to pick out 3 buttons that are good for you and your yarn and your project. Now let's get started, and I'm going to show you how to do the little heart stitch pattern. I'm going to move this stuff all out of the way, and we're going to pull in some Red Heart with Love yarn. I'm using a solid color yarn for the demonstration purposes, so that way you guys can easily see the stitches that we're going to be creating. Once you download your pattern, go ahead, grab some yarn, grab your hook, and let's get started with a gauge swatch. It's really important you do a gauge swatch for this pattern in particular, one, because it is a lace pattern, so as you are completing the stitches and the whole project is complete, the stitches alone are going to open up and give you more space. So what might be 4 inches to begin with, once the whole project is complete, could grow to 8 inches, so then all of a sudden you could have a cape that doesn't fit you. So it's important you don't skip this step, okay? So not only is it going to give you a chance to measure out how many stitches per inch your project is with your yarn and your hook, it's also going to give you a chance to practice this stitch pattern, okay? So in the pattern, you'll see that for the gauge swatch, it says to chain 47. The reason I have you chain 47 is because I want you to have an ample swatch to measure, meaning when this lace project is complete, gravity is going to take course and the weight of your yarn is definitely going to open up those stitches. So I want you to have a big enough swatch to simulate the effect that the gravity is going to have on your cape for your size. So once you chain 47, we're going to jump in. If you need a refresher on how to do the slip stitch or the chain, please go and check out those instructions, those videos over on redheart.com or right here on the Marley Bird channel. The instructions state that we want to do a double crochet in the 6th chain from hook. So the first thing we're going to do is yarn over our hook, and we're going to count 6 chains. We never count the loop that's on our hook. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm at the 6th chain from hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to put my double crochet right there in that 6th chain. I'm going to chain 3, and I'm going to put a single crochet in the next chain. Chain 3, and I'm going to put a double crochet in the next chain. Now I'm going to skip 3 chains. So I'm going to skip 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to put a double crochet in the next chain. And this happens to be my repeat. So this is my asterisk. So I'm going to chain 3, do a single in the next chain, chain 3, do a double in the next chain. And I'm back to my repeat. So I go back to where the asterisk is, and it says skip 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and I begin with my double crochet again. You would do this all along the row. Once you've completed that, join me back here, and we will get started on row 2, and we'll move right along with the little hearts stitch pattern. All right, so you're done with that. You're done with row 1 for your gauge swatch. Okay, and it's time to move on to row 2. So we're going to begin with the chain 3, and we're going to turn our work. Now, knowing that in the instructions it states that this chain 3 counts as the first double crochet, I'm going to take my marker and I'm going to stick it into the last chain that I just completed. And that's going to let me know when I come back that that's the last stitch of that next row, okay? So I've done my chain 3. It says to skip this chain 2 space and work a double crochet, chain 3, single crochet, chain 3, double crochet, all into this next double crochet. Now, I am going to put them all into this double crochet because that's what I did on the actual cape. But if you want to do the stitches into this space instead of the double crochet, you absolutely can do that. Just stay consistent with whatever your decision is. So I've done a double, 3 chains, and a single, 3 chains, and a double. So I've started to build my little heart. Now I'm going to skip this chain 3 space, skip this chain 3 space. This is my double crochet, and I'm going to do this whole thing again. So I'm over there, I'm putting a double, chain 3, single, chain 3, double, all into that space, okay? All right there into that nice space. Once again, I skip this chain 3, skip this chain 3, come over here, and I go into this space with my double, chain 3, single, chain 3, double. If you're using a solid color like I am, you might not be able to see the subtle hearts. But if you're using the long color changing yarn like the Unforgettable, you might be able to automatically start seeing your hearts right now because the color changes are taking place. If you are just wanting to learn the stitch pattern and you're trying it out with different yarn and different colors, it might be a good idea to try out this stitch pattern using a different color for each row, just so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on. Just a little slight suggestion if it's something you're interested in doing. I'm just moving along here, so trying to get to the end of the row so I can show you how to finish this up on this row, because the following row is very similar to this one, but what happens is we offset our little hearts stitch pattern. And so it's really easy. It's not hard at all. This is a quick and fun pattern for you guys to do. It's a fun pattern for this particular little cape as well. I'm on my last one. I'm coming all the way over here to the double crochet. I'm going to double, chain 3, and I'm going to put a single into the double, chain 3, and then a double. Now, the last thing it wants me to do, it wants me to put a double crochet into the 3rd chain of the turning chain. So that's the stitch I have marked down here, and I'm going to put a double crochet right there, okay? So that is a good clue to show you how if you have that stitch marked, you don't have to question yourself about where that last stitch is for the row, and you're good to go. So I've done row 2. Let's go ahead and carry on to row 3 right now. Okay, so for row 3, we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and turn. Now this counts as a double crochet and a chain 2. So as I move up my stitch marker, I want to count 1, 2, 3, which is my double crochet, and then there's my chain 2. I want to mark my double crochet because that's the last stitch. That's where I want to work into when I come back down there. Now it says I want to put a double crochet in the top of this double crochet. So it's a double crochet in the first double crochet. I'm going to skip these chain 3 spaces. I'm going just right over there. I'm not doing anything to them. And I'm coming over here to this double crochet, and I'm going to repeat the same repeat I've been doing this whole time. So I'm putting a double, chain 3, a single, chain 3, and a double. Okay, carry on, skip, skip, come over here to this double, and I repeat. Now, I would repeat this down the whole row. I'm going to set this down. I'd repeat this pattern down the whole row. When I come here to the very end, I'm going to skip these last 3 chain 3 spaces. I'll put a double crochet right there into that double crochet. I will chain 2 and put a double crochet right there into the top of that marked stitch right there. So it will come out nice and square. You're going to repeat rows 2 and 3 for at least, let's repeat those 2 rows for six times. Let's repeat them 6 times to get a nice, decent little swatch for you to mess around with. And then we're going to move on, and I'm going to show you how to prepare that swatch for doing the edging. So we're going to practice on our swatch a little bit before we jump into the real cape, okay? So finish that up, finish up your whole swatch, and join me back here. I'm going to get you started on the edging, okay? Okay, so you have your completed swatch, and it should look something like this, okay, where the blue is on this particular swatch. So it might be a little bit bigger than this, totally fine. That's actually better. When you have your finished swatch like this, the best thing you could do is you could wash it and block it out, or maybe spritz it with a little bit of water and just stretch it out to really kind of open up that lace, okay? It's not mandatory, but I highly suggest it because just like I said, we're going to use our swatch to see just how much these stitches might open up for us because we don't want our finished cape to be too big. When you have finished this up, once it's nice and open, you kind of get this nice lace bit. I mean, it's like, okay, that's really great. I like what that looks like. Let's play around with our swatch a little bit more and add some edging to our swatch, which simulates the edging for our actual cape, okay? So the instructions say that we need to work on the wrong side of our cape. So if I'm looking at the edging for the cape, you guys, it says, looking at the wrong side of the cape, join yarn with a slip stitch in the corner, working across the opposite side of the foundation row. Now, what does that mean? That means down here on the cape, this is my foundation row right there. These were my first stitches I created right here, okay? Now, I joined with a slip stitch right here when I was trying to do this first round for my border. I joined with a slip stitch, and then I chained 2, and then I did a round of half double crochets, working as even as possible along the row all the way to the end. And I made sure that I have 176 half double crochets evenly spaced. Now, I know from experience from teaching around the country and at my local yarn shop that there's a lot of crocheters and knitters out there that really despise it when a designer says work X number of stitches evenly, because we like to know exactly where we want those stitches to be, right? In an ideal world, that's what would happen. But in the sense of, look, I'm not exactly sure if yours looks exactly like mine. I mean, I told you how to do it, but I'm not really sure, but I know how many stitches need to be there. I'm going to show you a little trick to make sure that you are adding your stitches evenly, okay? I do this at home with my own work. I do this for the work that I do for magazines and for yarn companies and for books, okay? So this is tried and true, I'm telling you. Ignore these markers right there. We're going to get to those, okay? But say that this blue swatch, this is my swatch. This is what you have in front of you. And you need to do 176 stitches, okay? That's if it was on the real cape, okay? So this is what would be on the real cape. What I would need you to do is with your cape or your swatch, whichever, you need to fold it in half, okay? Fold it in half, take a stitch marker, and put it at the halfway point. Okay, put it at the halfway point. Then take your half and fold it in half. Take a stitch marker and put it at the halfway point. Now this is a guesstimation, okay? Same thing with the other side. Fold that half in half and put it at that halfway point. Now what you've done, as I open this up, looking at these markers that I just added, you've divided up this portion of your swatch, or conversely, your actual cape, into manageable sections. So I've divided it up into 4 sections. If you want to do more sections, you absolutely can. So all you would need to do is divide the number of stitches you need to add on by the number of sections you have. So if I have 176 stitches on my cape, and I have 4 sections on my cape, I would have 44 stitches in each section. So now I can work along, I would join with my slip stitch and I'd work along and get 44, making sure I have 44 stitches up to that marker. Then I would move that marker to that point, don't remove it, just move it to that, like onto the stitch that was the 44th stitch, and then carry on making 44 stitches to my next marker. The reason you don't want to remove this first marker is say you get halfway in and you've already reached 44. You're like, oh, I've put too many in a row. I need to rip back. Well, if you haven't kept that marker there, you don't know where to rip back to. Does that make sense? Whereas if I keep that marker there, I can say, oh, I've missed my mark. I've done too many or done too few. I need to rip back. I have a point of reference to rip back to because I know I have 44 correctly through there. So I work up, I get my 44. I put this marker on my new 44. Great. Move on. And I have a point of reference again. If this section doesn't work out, I need to rip back to, so on and so forth. You see how that works out? So that's a great way to evenly space up how you're going to do your stitches. Make sense? I hope so. Very cool. So the instructions say that for the cape, you would half double crochet 176. You would rotate and you'd work down the side edge of the cape and you would do a total of 28 half double crochets evenly spaced. Again, you could divide this up the same way we did the long ways. You could divide it up the short ways. Come around the edge. This time they want you to mark your corner. So when you mark your corner and then you begin doing your half double crochets this way, not only do they want you to mark the corner, I keep saying they, not only do I want you to mark the corner, but I want you to mark specific stitches as you're going across this row, okay? The reason I'm having you mark these specific stitches is that's where you're going to do your decreasing for your raglan shaping of the cape. And I'll show you on the cape what I mean by that. So you're going to mark these specific stitches. You'll get to the next corner, you'll mark that corner. Work along the edge and you'll be to the end. You'll join with a slip stitch. So having said all of that, on my little swatch, of course I don't have 176 stitches. I just chose a random number because, or I didn't even choose a number. I just did stitches evenly as possible so that you could get an idea of what it would look like. And also I changed colors again so that you could easily see what I've done here as far as the border. So when your border is complete on your actual cape, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to have this nice set of half double crochets along the bottom, half double crochets along the side. You'll have your edge stitch marked on the top, your first raglan marked, your second raglan marked, your third raglan marked, your fourth raglan marked, and your other corner. Now these raglans are where the piece lays on your shoulders. So if you think of the stitches laying right here and down this section on the back, so right here and the same section on the back, that's why you need 4. At those points, when you're working your border around, you're going to work half double crochet 2 togethers. So we're going to take this 176 stitches and we're going to decrease them down. Every time we decrease down, we'll eliminate 1 stitch here, 1 stitch here, 1 stitch here, 1 stitch here. So we're going to get rid of 4 stitches each time. Make sense? I'm going to show you on the actual cape what that means. As I move these over, I'm going to scooch this up to make sure I'm in frame. And of course it's upside down, but I'm going to keep it that way in that orientation because that's how I've been talking to you this whole time. But can you see, if I scooch this over, can you see this line of decreases right there? And this line of decreases right there? That's my raglan shaping. Those are the points at which, as I was working each row, because once we do the first full round, then we only work in rows for this pattern, okay? Every time I did my decrease in my rows, they came up at these points, and those points lay in the shoulder. Imagine this is where your shoulder would lay, so that would lay down your back, this would lay down your front, and so it makes the fronts lay perfectly. I have the same thing if I move this over. The same thing happens on this side of the cape. Here's my raglan shaping right there. Here's my raglan shaping right there, okay? At the same time, as you're doing these raglan shapings, the reason we marked the corner stitches on our little swatch here, so I'm going to pull my swatch over. The reason I marked my corner stitches right here and right here is because I want to make sure I'm working an even increase out here so that as I'm working my rows, this doesn't begin to cup in on me. I want it to lay flat. Very similar to doing a granny square or any sort of motif in the round, whether it's circularly or making a square or whatever it is you're making, you don't want it to cup up on you. You need to increase the stitches out here to compensate for the extra width that you're creating. Does that make sense? So the reason I mark this stitch, the reason I mark this corner is because every time I come to that corner, I'm going to do an increase, okay? I'm going to do an increase to make sure this comes out. So here's the cool part. If I'm increasing here and I'm decreasing here, there's not a whole lot of shaping, but it gives a nice amount of shaping so that as it lays on your body, it looks really good. Does that make sense? So it's not going to stick up straight in the air. It's going to lay on your body really nice and flat, and it's going to just be beautiful. As you go along, you'll see, as I turn this over to the right side, one side is going to have 3 buttons, and you'll add those after you do the button row, which is so easy. When you get to the button row, this is how easy it is. Look at this. You're going to come around, because you're going to be coming around this direction. You'll do 3 half double crochets, and then you'll do a chain 3, and then you'll skip 3, and then you'll do 3 half double crochets, chain 3, skip 3, 3 half double crochets. But see how that creates that nice buttonhole? And then on your next round, when you're coming back, you just crochet inside where you did those chains, and it creates that nice buttonhole. So once the buttonholes are created, that's when you sew on your buttons and you match them up to the sides of the buttonholes. See how easy that is? Super easy. This is not that scary. Once you get past the stitch pattern itself, once you get past this beautiful little heart stitch pattern and move on to the border, which is the first one is done 1 full round. I'm going to pull this back over. First one is done 1 full round, and from there on, it's just in rows. So that's where I'm going to take you right now. I'm going to scooch this out of the way. And we are going to mess around and we're going to do the first row just so that I can show you what I mean. So here we go. I am changing colors for the purpose of this demonstration so that way you can see what I have going on here. So what it wants me to do is it wants me to chain 2, 1, 2, because I had the wrong side facing, and it wants me to turn my work. Okay, so now I have my right side facing me. I'm supposed to do a half double crochet in each stitch to the next marked stitch, which should be my corner, which is right there. Perfect. So I would just yarn over, working into each stitch that I just created, do my simple half double crochets. Now a half double crochet is set up just like the double, only you only pull through 1 time through all 3 of them, meaning I yarn over my hook, into my stitch, yarn over my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through all 3. That's how you do a half double crochet. It's super easy, lots of flexibility with the half double crochet, and it's not as solid as the single and not as open as the double, so I feel like it was just a really good choice for the border here. That's why I chose to do the half double crochet, okay? So as I'm coming along, I'm going to come up here to my marked stitch for my corner. It's right there. Now in my corner marked stitch, I am going to work that increase like I told you to make sure that it lays flat, okay? So I'm going to put 3 half double crochets in this 1 stitch, okay? 1 stitch. After I do that, I'm going to take the marker and I'm going to move it up into the center of those 3 half double crochets I just made. I want to make sure it's in the center. That's not the center. This is the center. My marker just broke. That's all right. I've used it so much, it's time to change it out and do a new one. I want to make sure I move it up and put it in the center of those 3 half double crochets. So that way I know the next time I come back around, it's time to increase. I'm in the same place. Make sense? I carry on and I move along. So again, obviously my numbers are not the same as they're going to be on your cape because I'm working on my little tiny swatch. So let's just play along here with me, okay? So we're going to go along as if I'm working, give myself some more yarn, as if I'm working towards my marked stitch for my first raglan, okay? So there's my marked stitch. So I want to do a half double crochet 2 together. So I'm going to yarn over my hook, go into 1 stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over my hook, go into the next stitch over, because I'm going to combine 2 stitches. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and draw through 2. All right, so what was 2 stitches, I've now made them into 1. Yarn over and carry on my merry little way. Here's something though you don't want to forget. You want to take your marker that you were using to mark that stitch that was your decrease and mark the new stitch that has been decreased, so that way you know where to decrease again the next time you come to it. Make sense? You would do this all along the round, working your decrease, your decrease, your decrease, your increase. And so that gives you the subtle shaping. I mean, it's very subtle shaping, you guys. It's not very much at all. It's just going to make it lay flat as possible on your body. So it looks really good. It's not too drastic. It's just the right touch. Once you finish this in the round, so what you would do is you come across, come down, you'd meet up down here, and you would stop, and then you would turn, and it would be time for the next 3 through 10. So the next, let's see, what is that, 8 rows? The next 8 rows would be worked in this manner, going back and forth. And then you would do your buttonhole row, the last row, finish that off, and then you can add the fringe if you want, but you don't have to. This particular pattern started off in the Crochet Today magazine, and it was part of their fringe benefits section. So that's why we decided to go ahead and add the fringe to the bottom of this cape. But I know when the cape was originally finished and we turned it in without the fringe, it looked just as lovely. So it's totally up to you whether you want to use the fringe or not for your cape. Okay, now you have all the tools you need to make the Catskills cape. I hope you will give it a try. Go check out redheart.com for all of your supplies. You can order the Red Heart Boutique Unforgettable yarn right there at redheart.com, along with your hook and your darning needle and anything else you might need, and the pattern is there as well. I think with all of that and this particular video and me talking you through what you need to do and why you need to do it, you will have a successful experience making this cape for yourself. I hope you enjoyed today's video and we'll come back for more. Please check out all my other videos over at marleybird.com. Until then, happy crocheting, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.